Hello and welcome to the Hudson Valley Business Scene Show here on iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Frank Castella Jr., the president and CEO of the Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce. And today on our show, we'll be bringing in some great guests from the Hudson Valley community. Founding partner Jeffrey Feldman, attorney Feldman, Kleidman, Collins, and Sappe will be on the show with us, along with executive director of a local not-for-profit organization, a really great institution that has come to downtown Poughkeepsie. The Empire Training Center for the Arts Executive Director Trish Santini will be with us. But before we get to them, I want to quickly tell you about some upcoming events that'll be happening at the Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce that you should consider being a part of. Starting out with the Women's Leadership Alliance, which will hold a networking and celebration event for International Women's Day on Thursday, March the 6th. Runs from 5 to 7 p.m. It will be held at the Salt Boutique Labs in Wappingers Falls, sponsored by our friends at KeyBank and Youngworth Law. The Hudson Valley's Job Fair will be Thursday, March the 13th, brought to you by DC Works and the Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce, sponsored by Ethan Allen Workforce Solutions and Quality Environmental Solutions and Technology. Again, the Hudson Valley Job Fair is free to attend for anyone that is looking. If you're interested in having a table there because you're an employer that needs great employees, then you should be at the largest job fair in the Hudson Valley, Thursday, March the 13th. Runs from 3 to 6 p.m. That way it is over the change of shifts. If folks can get there in the afternoon because they work an evening shift, then they can come. And if they work a day shift, then they can come. That's why we do it from 3 to 6 p.m. It'll be held at the Poughkeepsie Galleria Mall, and there is free transportation that'll be provided through Dutchess County Transit and the bus system. All you need to do is jump right on, show them the flyer, and they will be glad to take you right to the Galleria Mall, where the Hudson Valley Job Fair is located. There's so many more events happening than just these that I've told you about. Check them all out online. All the events happening in and around the Hudson Valley community, right at the Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce website at DCRCOC.org. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to be joined by attorney Jeffrey Feldman. Hang in there. We'll be back right after this quick message.
Dad, where is he sending you?
Well, he sends all his patients to the same cardiology group.
Do you know anything about them?
Oh, honey, he's been my doctor for a long time. I trust his opinion.
Dad, I really think you should go to a heart specialist affiliated with a leading hospital.
Well, what do I say to him then?
You say, take me to Vassar.
Vassar Brothers Medical Center is recognized among the nation's highest performing hospitals for heart failure by U.S. News & World Report. Don't leave it to chance. Make it a choice. Learn more at takemetovassar.org.
And welcome back to the Hudson Valley Business Scene Show here on iHeartRadio. Now in the studio with me, as promised, from Feldman, Kleidman, Collins, and Sappe, LLP, it's the founding partner, Mr. Jeffrey Feldman. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Jeff, you and I have done this several times, and the last time in particular I remember quite well because you told some really great stories about being in the business, and it just really resonated, I felt, and I'd love to have you back here on the show today, and I want you to start out with telling our audience a little bit about you. Who is Jeffrey Feldman, the founding partner of Feldman, Kleidman, Collins, and Sappe?
Not necessarily in the order of importance. I'm a lawyer. I'm a grandfather, a father, a husband, and somebody who's very involved in the community based upon involvement in various non-for-profit boards.
So a number of years ago, you had started something that involved acts of kindness in the community.
We just did it again.
And it has resonated with me for many years, and you have done it several times since. So you started this tradition, and I just want you to start there because I think it tells our listeners a little bit about who you are. I think people might say, okay, here's an attorney, a successful attorney, someone we've heard on the radio before, someone we've seen in the community, whether it's in advertising, you've heard the voice, you probably recognize the voice if you're listening to the station because you've been on the air so many times in so many different ways. But I want you to tell our listeners about your involvement in community and some of the impacts that you've had.
So, I mean, right now I'm the chairperson of the hospice board. I've been a member of the family services board for a number of years. I'm on the LaGrange Town Parks and Recreation Committee. I was very involved in LaGrange soccer for a number of years and still am somewhat involved in that. But as far as what you're referring to as to our acts of kindness that the law firm did, going right back to the beginning when we started, I mean, tomorrow is our 39th anniversary. Paul Kleidman and I were always very involved in the community, and even when we weren't making ends meet, so to speak, we always were sponsoring Little League teams and soccer teams and things involved in the Arlington School District. So years ago, we decided that for our 30th anniversary, we were going to do 30 acts of kindness, and we made donations to a number of different charities, 30 that we had not donated to in the past. And then for the 35 acts of kindness, which we just recently did because of the interruption as far as business was concerned, as far as what the pandemic did. So this past year, we did 35 acts of kindness. And we contributed significant amounts of money to organizations like Miles of Hope, the Grace Smith House, CARE of Dutchess County, Sparrow's Nest, Spirit of Children, Susan G. Komen, the Fisher Center, Intrepid Sea and Space Museum, Arc of Hudson Valley, and I could go on and on.
Yeah, you have a list in front of you, and that list is just as long as my arm. And some of these organizations have been impacted greatly, not only by your treasure, but also your time. And I know you mentioned hospice, being a part of that organization involved, obviously the LaGrange Soccer Club, but also your team as well. You encourage the team to be involved in community, sit on boards, be a part of committees, be involved in their community. And that goes so much further than the dollar oftentimes. I know that there's a tremendous need, obviously, for organizations to have donations, but the knowledge that you're able to contribute and bring, the experience, really resonates with our community, has a greater impact oftentimes. So just want to take the opportunity for our listeners to know the real Jeffrey Feldman and the individual that's behind this great organization, Feldman, Kleidman, Collins, and Sappe. And that's a great transition into the organization and what this firm specializes in. So I'm going to let you talk a little bit about the history and where you are today.
We have an interesting practice in the sense that our practice is limited to civil litigation, meaning that we don't do real estate closings or criminal type work or anything like that. And even more interesting is that the types of civil litigation that we do is both on the plaintiff and the defense side. So on the plaintiff side, we represent people who are injured in various forms through the negligence of another, but we don't sue doctors or hospitals. And then on the defense side, we represent hospitals, doctors groups, physicians, healthcare professionals, when they get sued for medical malpractice. So we see things from both sides of the spectrum.
Medical malpractice is an area that is such a specialty law. You really need to know the ins and outs of it. And you've had so much success in the area of malpractice law. I want you to take an opportunity and talk about some of the settlements that you've had and some of the success stories that you've had in this area.
So, as I was explaining to you before we started, it's not possible for physicians to buy enough insurance coverage so that they're adequately protected. So in almost all the cases that I've tried for the last number of years, the physicians had their personal assets were at risk because they don't have enough insurance coverage for the amount of money that the plaintiff's lawyer would be seeking. And I think in the last year that I tried cases, 2023, the average request by a plaintiff's lawyer for the cases that I tried was somewhere between $10 and $15 million. And in each of those 4 or 5 cases, the jurors came back in favor of my client, the doctor or the medical group, in less than an hour. So to the doctors, huge credit for them having, the ability to withstand the litigation process and to know that they face personal exposure, but to want to hear a jury of their peers decide their fate. And to the jurors, without whom the system doesn't work, the fact that they were not swayed by sympathy because the people that were suing were catastrophically injured. But it wasn't the fault of a doctor. It was based upon, bad things happen. People get cancer. Things happen. That's just a little bit about the defense side. But you do, as a medical defense lawyer, you need to know more medicine than the people you're cross-examining, the other physicians, the experts. And that was always my strength.
So for our listeners who may be just tuning in here on the Hudson Valley Business Scene Show, you're listening to the voice of Jeffrey Feldman. He's the founding partner of Feldman, Kleidman, Collins, and Sappe, a law firm here in the Hudson Valley, talking about the firm's impact here on community, also the areas of practice that they have. I want you to give some specific examples of cases that you might have out there. Obviously, you can't get into details, but some examples that might resonate with individuals out there, and they might have a better understanding of exactly what it is that you do.
I mean, on the plaintiff side, we represent people who have been injured in automobile accidents, somebody that's rear-ended, somebody that, the other vehicle is driven by somebody who is impaired and shouldn't be driving, construction accidents, people falling from elevated heights when the appropriate safety mechanisms or scaffolding or belts weren't provided to them so that they were at significant risk and then fall from great heights. This past year, we represented several, I'm limited in what I can say about this, but we represented several young females who were sexually abused. And those cases recently were resolved, but there's a confidentiality order, so more details about that can't be discussed. But that's just a sampling.
So here in the state of New York, we have much different laws than other areas, and I know the law has changed greatly over the years. And in your experience, 39 years in the business, can you talk a little bit about, for the better or for worse, how law has changed in your industry?
Well, it's become more complicated. It's not as user-friendly. There are many more pitfalls for the unwary, so that a lawyer, for example, who does a lot of real estate but doesn't do personal injury work, there are significant, issues that can arise where they would be surprised and not aware of a particular requirement that they needed to fulfill that could jeopardize a client's interest. I think the big thing is you and I have talked about this, is the funding that is available to plaintiffs. There are funding companies that are behind many of these lawsuits, and that makes everything much more complicated so that the lawyer and the client are not necessarily making the decisions as to what should or shouldn't happen. There's a funding company that now has a financial interest in the lawsuit, and that raises all kinds of specters of issues, and it creates lots of litigation against major corporations where the litigation wouldn't otherwise exist.
Now, your firm has been recognized in many ways over the years, including by the Chamber, of course, but so many other magazines and not-for-profit organizations for the work that you do in the community and so on. I want you to talk a little bit about some of those recognitions and some that were the most meaningful to you.
I mean, being recognized by the Chamber was a huge thing, for me personally and for the firm. We've been recognized by the ARC, the Bessie Payne Award, for our involvement in the community. There are lots of different accolades that go along with. You see different lawyers with best lawyers or super lawyers or all these other things. I think the most noteworthy thing is the number of times that we receive referrals or recommendations from former clients based upon our satisfaction, or the Google reviews that we get from clients who are willing to post and explain their satisfaction. Those are firsthand, people who have had a direct impact. And some of the lawyer awards, lawyers pay for those. It's not like it's a real vetting system. The best lawyer system that used to be done by U.S. News and World is not like that, and they have a strict peer review. So that's another, worthy, and well recognized accomplishment.
Jeff Feldman, I want you to talk a little bit about the discovery process. How do you determine whether or not someone has a case that is worthy of pursuing? And I know that couldn't be difficult. Oftentimes, it is driven by finances. And while justice is the main goal of your firm, and that is very evident in the work that you do, ultimately the bills have to be paid.
Correct.
So how do you go through that process, and then the process of discovery where you're diving a little bit deeper and figuring out how we're going to move forward with a case?
So that's a great question. So always sooner is better than later. So, for example, if there's an automobile accident, there's lots of debris at the scene that can get washed away by a rainstorm, and some of that debris or the marks on the road could be very significant in being able to figure out whether our prospective client was on the right side of the road or the wrong side of the road, whose version of the facts is more accurate. So a quick investigation, we get investigators out as soon as we're contacted to take pictures of the scene, interview the witnesses, meet with the police officers, and move on from there. In lots of other situations, based upon the world that we live in now, there's video of different things that are happening, whether it's a slip and fall in a store or the black box on a vehicle. And so you need to really delve into all of those aspects because you want to know everything up front, and you don't want to be surprised by some aha moment during the course of discovery where the defense has some information that we didn't know about that changes the whole complexion of the case. So once we do all of that before we put a case into suit, we reach out to the insurance company, try and resolve it amicably. Many times that works, and many times it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you put the case into suit, and then you very aggressively and diligently just pursue the discovery process to find out as much as you can from the other side about their position and posture, the documents they have, documents that they have, information they have about the vehicles, photographs, things like that. Take depositions of each party to dig into the basis for their position, and then you continually reevaluate your position based upon the information that you're accumulating.
A gentleman, a community champion. That's how I would define Jeffrey Feldman. Feldman, Kleidman, Collins, and Sappe. We want you to check them out online on their website. It's FKC&S.law. It's FKC&S.law. Or you can always find them on our website at the Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce, simply by visiting DCRCOC.org. Put in Feldman, put in Kleidman, put in Collins, put in Sappe. Doesn't matter. They will be the first to come up in our directory. The clock is going to take us in this segment of the show, but I want to thank Jeff for coming in and being with us here on the Hudson Valley business scene. And to our listeners, we have to take that break, but when we come back, we're going to be joined by Trish Santini, the Executive Director from Empire Center for the Arts. Hang in there. We'll be back right after this quick break.
Dad, where is he sending you?
Well, he sends all his patients to the same cardiology group.
Do you know anything about them?
Oh, honey, he's been my doctor for a long time. I trust his opinion.
Dad, I really think you should go to a heart specialist affiliated with a leading hospital.
Well, what do I say to him then?
You say, take me to Vassar.
Vassar Brothers Medical Center is recognized among the nation's highest performing hospitals for heart failure by U.S. News and World Report. Don't leave it to chance. Make it a choice. Learn more at takemetovassar.org.
And welcome back to the Hudson Valley Business Scene Show here on iHeartRadio. Now in the studio with me, as promised, from the Empire Center for the Arts, it's Trish Santini, the Executive Director. Trish, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Frank.
I want you to tell our listeners what your organization's all about. You are new to the area with respect to bringing a really great concept to Dutchess County into the city of Poughkeepsie. We want our listeners to know what you're all about.
I'm happy to share. Empire Training Center for the Arts is a new not-for-profit workforce development organization. We will train both technical and administrative jobs in the performing arts and the live entertainment industry. The whole premise behind this is twofold, I would say. One is, as we all know, it affected many businesses during the pandemic. The performing arts and live entertainment industry has really experienced a talent drain. Many people during the pandemic retired or moved into other careers. So we're looking to bring skills-based training to a new generation of talent that can work in these various jobs where there is currently way more demand than there is supply. This is in good service to adults who are looking for careers in the arts and entertainment, and it is also a way to support the industry, given that right now there is a real need for the jobs that we will be training for.
So I want you to tell our listeners about Trish Santini and Frank Butler. You came to the area with a real long list of things that you have accomplished outside of the area, but you're bringing it here. So I want you to talk about that.
Frank and I have worked in the performing arts, primarily in the theater, for our entire careers. Frank has been a director of production for 35, 40 years. He started his career primarily at American Repertory Theater in Cambridge, and then at the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis, and then most recently at the Shed in New York City. My career started as a performer, but for the last couple decades, I have been working in arts administration and leadership, from running a Broadway marketing firm in the city to also being at the Guthrie Theater as the External Relations Director. Most recently, I was the inaugural Executive Director of a project in the city called Little Island, which is a not-for-profit public park and performance space. I was with that organization for 7 years, from design and construction through the launch to operating it for the first few years. Frank and I have had conversations over the years about the lack of vocational training generally in this country right now, but specifically in our industry. So we decided that it was time to give back. After doing some research, settled on an interest in the Queen City, and we were fortunate enough to find high developers. Barry Cohn and Jay Blumenfeld generously offered us the opportunity to reside the training center at the Chance Theater.
The Chance Theater, a place with so much history, formerly the Dutchess Theater.
Yes.
And the history that institution has brought to Poughkeepsie and to Dutchess County and beyond. So many performances have been on that stage over the years that people might not even realize some of the names. Just take a second and talk about that.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary. I mean, it started as the Dutchess Theater, as a vaudeville and burlesque house, and then it was subsequently a movie theater, and then a theater that had a company in it that produced plays. Closed for a little while when it reopened as the Chance, as a music venue. I mean, it's wild, the names, right? It's Bob Dylan and David Bowie and the Police, which is, of course, legendary, I know, because there were very few people there and lots of people who claimed to be there. Let's see, Meatloaf, Count Basie Orchestra. I mean, the range of artists is astonishing. It's rock and roll, it's reggae, it's jazz, it's pop, it's heavy metal. So I think you can feel the memories when you're in that building. You can feel that history. We have certainly been inundated with amazing stories about people's experiences in that building. So it is exciting to us personally to be there, but I think it's also an extraordinary opportunity for our future students to be a part of that history and then subsequently a part of the future.
And now you're opening your doors to the community to have a fundraiser to help underwrite the Empire Training Center for the Arts and your programming. And this is a unique event that you have created. It's brand new to the area, and it's a concept I think no one expected. And yet I think it's something that is going to be wildly popular. So I want you to talk about that.
Well, the original chapter, when it was the Dutchess Theater, apparently there were those in the community that thought that the content in there was a little saucy, so they referred to it as the Dirty Dutchess. So our fundraiser is inspired by that chapter, and we are doing an event on March 15th called the Dirty Dutchess, an evening of vaudeville, burlesque, and Broadway. So we have two of Broadway's most highly regarded performers, Andrea Burns, who people might have seen most recently in The Notebook, but she originated the role of Daniela in Lin-Manuel Miranda's In the Heights. She's been in Beauty and the Beast. She's been in On Your Feet, which was the story of Gloria Estefan. Another gentleman, Darius DeHaas, who's been in 6 different Broadway shows. He was the voice of Shy on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And then in addition, we have a range of vaudeville and burlesque inspired performers that will not only perform on stage, but throughout the Chance building. There will be complimentary beverages and desserts. And I think of it as an escape from reality. It's a great night out. It's going to be really fun. It's from 8:30 to 10:30. And it's an opportunity to be part of what will over time become the next chapter of the Chance Theater.
Become a part of history. Purchase a ticket to this incredible event, this new event, The Dirty Dutchess, an evening of vaudeville, burlesque, and Broadway at the Chance Theater on March the 15th. You can buy your tickets right online. You can go right to the website for Empire Training Center for the Arts, and the website is empirearts.org. It's Empire empirearts.org. And it's right on the homepage, right at the top. Look at the details. Tickets are very inexpensive. We were talking about this just a moment ago off air. Surprisingly inexpensive. $75 for a ticket for an evening out on the town in Poughkeepsie. An experience you will never forget, unlike anything that has ever been in downtown Poughkeepsie in decades.
Well, I think just like the mission of our not-for-profit is access, so is this event. The whole intention is that as many people that want to come can come.
So I'm going to pivot the conversation a little bit and go back to your programming.
Okay.
And I know applications are now open.
They are.
Talk about who should be applying for these applications, what the cost is, are there scholarship opportunities available for students, and what they will learn in that program, and how long is it?
Yes, so the applications are open right now for the track we call Stagecraft and Technology, which means we'll be training individuals as stagehands, audio technicians, and video technicians. Again, these are all jobs with more demand than there is supply. You have to be over 18. You have to have a GED or high school diploma. You do not necessarily have to have a background in the arts. As long as you're curious about it and you're ready to do the work, we can teach you the rest. It is 10 months, 3 days a week. It is a $3,500 tuition, but it is also what we call a trust-based sliding scale. So when you fill out the application, you have an opportunity to share with us where your affordability level is, and then we will secure funding to supplement that cost.
Can you talk about some of the jobs that are out there and available in the community for this type of work? I think that might be a misnomer here. People being confused by the name Empire Training Center for the Arts. This is not performing arts training. This is technology.
That's right. And these jobs exist in all different kinds of places. So, you know, one of our commitments to our graduates is that we will place them in their first paid position, whether that is an internship, apprenticeship, or seasonal role. You can take this work anywhere. There are tons of transferable skills. So whether you work in a theater, in a music venue, on a cruise ship, move to Vegas, go on tour with a band or a Broadway show, corporations hire folks to do these jobs that are in-house, full-time, year-round positions. I think the exciting part about these jobs is also that it's up to you to decide the path you want to take. Do you want to work as a freelancer? Do you want to be year-round full-time? Do you like seasonal work? Is it supplementing some other aspect of your interests and passions so that you can afford to pursue those things? These are well-paying jobs. I mean, in the Hudson Valley, if you're not part of the union yet and you are in your first jobs, you're starting at $25 an hour. It can go up to as much as $65 an hour as you add more specialized skills, which just sort of happens naturally when you're doing the work in the field. We do also have a relationship with the Hudson Valley local of IATSE, which is 311. So there will be opportunity over the course of the training to meet with representatives from the union, learn about what the benefits are of being part of the union. And in the Hudson Valley, you can work in non-union and union spaces simultaneously.
For those listeners who may be just tuning in, we're talking to Trish Santini. She's the executive director for Empire Training Center for the Arts. They have a fundraiser coming up to support and help underwrite the future of the Empire Training Center for the Arts here in downtown Poughkeepsie. Trish, there's so much to unpack here. There's a lot for people to learn. I encourage them to reach out to you, visit your website, gain more information, learn more about the programming that you're providing here. This is a very unique opportunity. Be a part of the resurgence of the city of Poughkeepsie and the Hudson Valley here. EmpireArts.org, EmpireArts.org, or you can always find them on our website at the Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce simply by visiting DCRCOC.org. Put in Empire, they will be one of the first to come up. Trish, thank you so much for coming in here, sharing with us on the Hudson Valley Business Scene Show about your organization. Thank you for being a part of this community. To our listeners, if you like anything that you heard on the show today, you want to learn more about any of our guests or about upcoming events that are happening in and around the Hudson Valley community, all you need to do is visit our website at the Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce simply by visiting DCRCOC.org. Thank you for tuning in here on the Hudson Valley Business Scene Show, and we will see you next time.